Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. This is our Kapnick Strive September webinar, and the topic is managing emotions. I'm Jen Alexander. I'm a wellness coordinator here, and Lexi Jenkins is also here with us, so we're excited to take you through this presentation. We're going to be discussing managing emotions, and while emotions are something that we all experience on a daily basis, we're going to dig a bit deeper into what emotional well-being is, when emotions become unhealthy, and techniques to restore a state of emotional wellness. So first, let's dive into what emotional well-being is. The National Institute of Health defines emotional well-being as the ability to successfully handle life's stresses and adapt to change in difficult times. The National Center for Emotional Wellness expands on this definition and views emotional well-being as an awareness, understanding, and acceptance of feelings and an ability to manage effectively through times of change or challenge. It's important to note that emotional well-being is not an absence of unhappy or unpleasant feelings and thoughts. It's recognizing that we can feel negative emotions, accept them, and manage them so that our daily function is not impaired. And as you can see from this wheel, there are nearly endless amounts of emotions that we can have the capacity to feel on a daily basis. From the most basic emotions of happiness, anger, or surprise, to feeling courageous or jealous or disillusioned, these are all feelings that we might experience from time to time. As I mentioned earlier, experiencing a range of emotions on a daily basis is normal. However, when difficult emotions are not accepted or managed by the person, by ourselves, some outward signs of emotional challenges might start to become present. Some of those signs include chronic feelings of stress or sadness, feeling irritable, socially withdrawn, or not engaged in the things that you enjoy, feeling fatigued, difficulty carrying out work or daily tasks, mood swings, substance misuse, and more. If you notice some of these signs in yourself or in someone close to you, it's important to take steps towards emotional regulation and seek professional help. We'll discuss some of these strategies later in the presentation. When your emotions regularly get out of control, it can have many negative impacts on your personal life, professional life, and relationships. Those unmanaged emotions could lead to physical or emotional outbursts that harm relationships with friends, family, and your partner. In addition, you might have a hard time doing your best at work and keeping up with daily tasks. You might feel alone, isolated, or like you can't relate to anyone else. Some people turn to substances as a means of coping with these uncontrolled emotions. Substances might also contribute to an impaired ability to control your emotions and can elicit more outbursts. So we're going to look at factors influencing emotional regulation. These are factors that can either positively or negatively impact your ability to regulate emotions. So for the purposes of this presentation, we'll be focusing on adults, but children and adolescents do have their own unique factors and experiences that will influence emotional regulation. Again, for adults, correlation studies have found that individuals who misuse alcohol and other drugs report greater difficulty regulating emotions. Not only does alcohol and drug use impact emotional regulation, but the relationship works in the opposite direction too. Increased difficulties regulating emotions have been found to be associated with worse alcohol and drug use outcomes, including increased alcohol consumption, and more problematic patterns of substance use. Alcohol is a tricky substance because it can release endorphins in our brain that make us feel happy, but it's also classified as a depressant. This can make alcohol especially tricky for people with a predisposition to anxiety or depression. For everyone, the more often you drink, the more vulnerable your brain becomes to the effects of alcohol, potentially making your moods more volatile over time. While some people feel happy when drinking, others might feel anxious, disgusted, sad, or overwhelmed. Noticing patterns of your emotions when using alcohol or other drugs is important. If you notice that you feel sad, angry, or anxious every time that you drink, you might want to consider cutting back or removing it from your life entirely. I'm going to pass it over to Lexi, and she is going to continue discussing some of these influencing factors.
Thanks, Jen. Another factor that influences our emotional regulation is anxiety and stress. And the National Institute of Mental Health estimates that about 6% of US adults, so around 1 in 15, will experience generalized anxiety disorder, or GAD, in their lifetime. In 2010, a Stanford University of Medicine study concluded that people with GAD had unique differences in the way that their brain unconsciously controls emotion. Clinical data from the study suggested that when adult GAD patients encountered an emotional conflict, the part of the brain that regulates negative emotion was inhibited. And this suggests that people with anxiety may struggle to regulate negative feelings when in emotionally intense situations or conflict. So now ask yourself, have you ever snapped at someone while you were stressed? Additional studies show that even people who don't experience anxiety, but just the daily stressors of life, can also struggle to manage emotions while stressed. At NYU, they did a study and they found out that when people were stressed, this diminished ability to control their fear response and use techniques to manage their emotions. And after practice and repeated use of these strategies, however, emotional regulation did improve. So going on to social support, studies suggest that social networks, whether big or small, and we're talking about social networks, not social media, can play a role in the development of healthy emotional regulation skills. Emotional regulation not only occurs within oneself, so intrapersonally, but also through the social connections, interpersonally. And having a strong group of people around you can help you build these social competencies that result in improved emotional regulation. And in addition, social networks are really great for our mental health and can help us cope with stressors that might normally cause an emotional reaction. So now we're going to transition to talking through some practical techniques for managing your emotions. And we're going to start off with assessing your emotions. And sometimes it can be hard to tell exactly how you feel, whether it's about something in particular or just how you're doing that day. So when you're feeling unsure of where you're at emotionally, you can ask yourself a few questions to assess your feelings. Was there a particular event or trigger that led to these emotions? What thoughts are you having? And what sensations or feelings are they bringing up to you? Is there a better way to cope with these feelings? And what do you want to do about these feelings? So assessing and recognizing these emotions are a very important step in managing emotions in a productive way. Now, here are some other techniques that help with emotional regulation, and these include mindfulness, identify and reduce triggers, tune into physical symptoms, engaging in positive self-talk, and responding but not reacting. And just want to put it out there that these are some techniques. There are so many other techniques out there, but we just wanted to point out a few. So starting with mindfulness, this is all about using your senses to notice what is happening around you in a non-judgmental way. And these skills can help you stay calm and avoid engaging in negative thought patterns when you are experiencing emotional pain. And so a mindfulness exercise is called the 5-4-3-2-1 method, which allows you to anchor yourself instantly in the present moment in order to escape emerging or established stress. And this technique consists of focusing your attention on your 5 senses. So let's all do this together. So starting with 5, what are the 5 things that you can see around you? So what Jen and I can see, we can see water bottles, that's one. We can see our computers. We can see a table and chairs. What's something else that you see, Jen?
There's some beautiful artwork in the room.
Beautiful artwork, awesome. Now moving on to 4, what are 4 noises or sounds that you can hear? This could be your own voice. You could hear traffic in the background. It could be the air conditioning or heating that's going on. Moving on to 3, what are 3 materials that we can feel? It could be the chair you're sitting on. It could be the clothes on you. And then what are 2 smells that we observe? And then the last is taste. Did you recently drink water? Did you eat a piece of candy? Now moving on to identify and reducing triggers. This is all about starting to look for patterns or factors that are present when you start to feel strong emotions. Were you drinking alcohol? Were you with a certain person? What was the environment like? When you start to identify these triggers, you can start to explore why they carry so much weight and whether you can reduce their importance or if you need to eliminate those triggers. Next is tuning into physical symptoms. Pay attention to how you are feeling, including if you're hungry or tired. And these factors can cause you to interpret your emotions more strongly. If you can address the underlying issue, is it really hunger or exhaustion? You can change your emotional response. Next is engaging in positive self-talk. When your emotions feel overwhelming, our self-talk can become negative. Oh, I messed up again, or everyone else is so awful. If you treat yourself with empathy, you can replace some of this negative talk with positive comments. And this shift can help mitigate the emotions that we're feeling. And then lastly is responding but not reacting. When you're in a state of heightened negative emotions, avoid reacting quickly to stimuli around you. And this could be making a rash decision or snapping at someone. Rather than lashing out, you can try a different response. Is it possible for you to tell someone that you're feeling angry rather than speaking harshly to them? Get really curious about what will happen if you switch up your response. And all these techniques that we presented are really individual, but a combination of multiple ones can allow for greater success in managing your emotions. And as said before, these are only some techniques. There are so many more out there. Lastly, it's important to recognize that regulating our emotions on our own can be difficult, and it requires a high degree of self-awareness. When you're having a hard time, our emotional self-regulation begins to suffer. And sometimes we need a partner, like a therapist, who can help us learn better self-regulation skills. And fortunately, there are a number of therapeutic solutions that can help us learn to better regulate our emotions. So if you notice that self-guided techniques aren't enough when it comes to managing your emotions, reaching out to a mental health professional is always a good idea. And we have provided one useful resource for you, which is on this slide you hear from psychologytoday.com/US/therapist. And this is where you can find a tool to find a therapist that's near you. So if you are interested in learning more about the topic that we discussed today, here are some options for reading, watching, and or listening. So starting with a book, this is called Rising Strong by Brené Brown. And this book focuses on the power of paying attention to our emotions and getting curious about them, rather than numbing or ignoring the discomfort. A resource to watch is called Emotions and the Brain. This is by Sentis, which is located on YouTube. And this is a super quick video on how our brain works to create emotions in the body. And it also provides an explanation of why we sometimes make irrational choices when we are highly emotional. And then last resource we're providing you is listening. We recommend just searching guided meditation on your preferred music platform. So Spotify or YouTube, to name a couple. And you can search something specific. It could be you're looking to silence that negative self-talk, or if you want to help manage anger. Or it could just be a general meditation to help build awareness of your surroundings. And this is a great strategy when it comes to managing strong emotions. Well, Jen and I flew through that presentation, but I want to thank everyone for joining Jen and I on today's presentation, Managing Emotions. We highly encourage you for the next 15 minutes to do something for you. This could be doing a meditation, going for a walk, could be chatting with a coworker, anything that puts a smile on your face. But we hope to see you at the next presentation on healthy relationships on Wednesday, October 26th from noon to 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thanks, everyone.